Hello again, gamers. Welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm the Board Game Captain, and today I'm going to be reviewing this copy of the Pathfinder Bestiary 2 battle cards that was sent to me by Paizo to review. So first off, I want to thank Paizo. Thank you for sending this copy of the Bestiary 2 battle cards to review. Before we get started though, I want to draw attention to the fact that I'm wearing one of our merch shirts. This is the I Drink and I Game, It's What I Do shirt. And if you'd like to get cool gamer gear, shirts like this as well as mugs, there's a link to my Teespring store in the description below. And if you're in a position to and would like to help out the channel, there's also a link to my Patreon in the description below where you can get access to behind the scenes videos, early release videos, as well as possibly the ability to request reviewing tutorials to your favorite classic games. Alright, so now I, a while back, did a review to the Bestiary battle cards. I'll put a card up top here if you want to check that out. So the Bestiary battle cards were card versions of all of the monsters that came in the Pathfinder Bestiary. So now, of course, Bestiary 2 came out between then and now, and I did review this as well. And this is card versions of all of the monsters in Pathfinder's Bestiary 2. So, alright, let me read the back of this box to you real quick. Bring your monsters to life. Pathfinder Bestiary 2 holds hundreds of new friends and foes for your adventures. And this box of over 350 cards presents a new and exciting way for those creatures to leap into action at the table. Each card features a beautiful full-color image of a Bestiary 2 creature on one side, while the other side provides that creature's statistics for quick and easy reference. With each encounter, show the players what their characters are facing, while keeping the monster's abilities at the ready, and watch your games come alive. All right, so first thing I want to address is what's the difference between this and the Pathfinder Bestiary battle cards, the original. Okay, so the first difference, as you can see with this side-by-side comparison, is that the Bestiary battle cards is a larger box set. The first one contained 450 cards, whereas Bestiary 2 battle cards contains 350. Now that's because the basic Pathfinder Bestiary contained a lot more monsters, and that's the main reason why it is smaller than the first Bestiary battle cards box. So this one is a bit smaller, again, because the Pathfinder Bestiary 2 is a little bit smaller as well, less monsters. The other big difference, though, and this is one I really want to draw attention to, is the fact that the only thing I had as a negative to the Pathfinder Bestiary battle cards was the fact that not every monster had its own card. Now, I know that this box was already quite big and quite heavy, but there were a lot of monsters, especially like, for instance, the bear and the cave bear, or a couple different kinds of beetles or different kinds of spiders that would share a card because they had fairly small stat blocks, but then there would only be one illustration for one of the two creatures on the card. And sometimes that illustration wasn't quite appropriate. Like there was the card where they had the giant bat and the vampire bat swarm, and all you had was the illustration of the swarm. You didn't have a illustration for the giant bat. That is not the case with the new box set. So this new box set, every monster in here has its own card. There is no sharing. So my one gripe is gone. That is pretty awesome. Now I don't know if Paizo listened to me and other reviewers who said that that was our one gripe, or if it's just because since there were significantly less monsters in this book that they were able to give each monster its own card and its own illustration. But either way, I do think it's an improvement over the Bestiary Battle Cards 1. So my only gripe now on this one is just, you know, nature of the beast. It's going to have a little less content, but that's not really much of a gripe, to be honest. Well, there also, though, is the minor gripe of the fact that these are quite pricey because you're buying a huge box of cards. This goes for $59.99, so this is a rather pricey add-on to Pathfinder. What do you get in this box, though? So you get hundreds, and I do mean hundreds, there are tons of these Bestiary battle cards. And again, like I said, each one has its own card, and with its own card, it has its own illustration on the back, and its stat block with all of its attacks and abilities on the front. Of course, if any of them have spells, they would just reference what spell they have. They don't have the spells in full. You would need either spell reference cards or the main book to look up the spells that they have. So just like with the original Pathfinder Bestiary battle cards, I love this. This is fantastic. This is a great tool to use as a aid in streamlining battle during role-playing, especially when you have battles in dungeons where there are very different creatures next to each other, where you might instead have to have multiple bestiaries open, turn to different pages, or going back and forth between different pages in one of the bestiaries. I had a fight recently where there were monsters from multiple books out in the fight fighting my players, and it was so much easier to have the cards from in here for some of the monsters, and that was great. And adding these cards to my collection is fantastic. I really love having tons of them out on the table behind my Game Master screen, being able to quick reference them. It is a really much easier tool to use than going back and forth through the book, especially when you have different kinds of creatures at once. In one particular fight recently, for instance, my players were fighting, they had a ether spider, vampire bat swarms, and gelatinous cubes all in the same room. It was a crazy fight, but FYI, those would be all over the place in the first Bestiary book, whereas with the Bestiary battle cards, you just pull out the cards and just have them out there. You don't have to be paging back and forth all furiously. And since the Bestiary 2 came out, I've been really hoping they were going to do this again, make a card set for Bestiary 2 so that you could have all of those creatures on cards. I am still hoping and really hopeful that they're going to do small pack releases for the monsters in certain adventure paths, because there are always unique extra monsters that they add in certain adventure paths. I am currently playing the Extinction Curse adventure path, which is a lot of fun. I'm running it for my players. They're really enjoying it, and I would love to have the unique creatures from there on cards as well. I love these cards. These are fantastic. Now, just like when I reviewed the first Bestiary battle card box, I do have to say that as these are quite expensive, if you are on a budget and can't afford to get these, they're not mandatory. They are not necessary. You don't have to have them, and if you can't afford them, you don't have to feel bad about not being able to afford these for running your game of Pathfinder. However, if you can afford them, and you're like me, you're the kind of person who loves to get any sort of peripheral, any sort of add-on expansion that will help you streamline your gameplay, things for quick, easy reference, these are great. These are slightly more awesome than even the first one, again, because none of them have two monsters on a single card, which I really think actually improves this set. It makes it just that little bit cooler than the first set. If you got the first set, it's a no-brainer to me. You're probably going to want to get the second set. It's usually going to go in that order, because the first Bestiary and the first Bestiary battle card set are all the basic monsters, the really common things that you're going to want to have, whereas the Bestiary 2 and the second Bestiary battle card set are the more interesting and unique monsters. It has lots of things in it that are really cool and really interesting and really different to throw into your game. You're gonna want to have that first Bestiary, and if you got the first Bestiary battle cards, that as well. Those first, but once you get the Bestiary 2, if you got the Bestiary battle cards, you're gonna want the Bestiary 2 battle cards, because you're gonna want to be able to do the same thing with your monsters from the Bestiary 2. You're gonna want to be able to quick reference them. You're gonna want to be able to hold up the pictures for all the people in your group and be like, look at this awesome freaking monster, because you know what, there are some really great illustrations here to show your players, either for monsters or for allies, because in some cases some of these may wind up being allies for your party. Look at that thing right there. Look at that. That is awesome. All right, yeah, there's some great illustrations in here. I absolutely love the monsters in the Bestiary 2, and if you can't tell, I'm gaga over it. Yeah, again, I loved the first battle cards. I've been using them constantly. I can tell you from personal experience running a campaign of Pathfinder 2nd edition, I have been using these battle cards nonstop. Every game, I have the ones I need for the whole game out behind my Game Master screen, and I'll reference them constantly. So getting to have them now for stuff for the Bestiary 2, especially, these came just in time for the fact that the next game is going to include some monsters from the Bestiary 2 in the adventure path that I am running. This is great. This is fantastic. I thoroughly like this. And again, since they've removed the only minor gripe that I had with the first set, which was the fact that some of the monsters were sharing a card, and that's no longer a thing in this. And also, since it has the, in my opinion, more enjoyable monsters of Bestiary 2, I actually quite love a lot of the monsters in here. I'm going to go a half a point higher than I did for the Bestiary battle cards that were based on the original Pathfinder Bestiary, and I'm going to go 8.5 stars out of 10. Again, if you can't afford it, if it would break the bank, you don't need to get it. Don't feel like it's a mandatory thing. It's not mandatory. But if you can afford it, these box sets are freaking awesome. They are really, really great tools for streamlining your game, and that is great. So yeah, if you can afford it, I highly recommend the Pathfinder Bestiary battle cards too. Again, the one thing they don't include, though, that you would still want the book for, is they don't have all the storyline for the different monsters. It's just the stats and the illustrations. You still probably want the book for the storyline, but then these are great for quick reference. So there you have it. You have any questions, comments, or concerns on the Pathfinder Bestiary 2 battle cards, feel free to put them in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this review of a expansion to the role-playing game of Pathfinder, and you'd like to see me do more reviews of products like this, be sure to give this a like, share it on all forms of social media. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Board Game Captain. That's Captain spelled with a K on YouTube. And until next time, game on.